Shada Talabreza, and I'm a geriatric and palliative medicine doctor with the VA healthcare system. Do you have a serious illness, or are you at risk of developing one? If so, it's important to think about what matters to you. Different people want different things, and what matters to you should guide decisions about your treatment plan. That includes any decisions about feeding tubes. A feeding tube is sometimes used if you have a serious health problem that keeps you from swallowing or from eating enough to get proper nutrition. A feeding tube can deliver nutrition, fluids, and medications directly into your stomach or intestines. Before making a decision about feeding tubes, it can help to know what feeding tubes are, when they are recommended and when they're not, and about possible risks and how they could affect your life. This video will give you some information about feeding tubes, but it doesn't replace a conversation with your healthcare team about whether or not a feeding tube would actually help you. So don't make a decision based on this video alone. Talk to your healthcare team about your medical condition and what's most important to you before making decisions about feeding tubes or any other life-sustaining treatment. There are two types of feeding tubes. One type goes into the nose or mouth, down through the throat and into the stomach. It might be somewhat uncomfortable, but it's usually not painful, and many people get used to it after a while. This type of tube is often used for shorter periods of time. The other type of feeding tube goes through your skin and directly into your stomach or intestines. Inserting it requires a minor procedure or surgery. This type of tube is used when someone needs help getting nutrition over a longer period of time. It's usually not painful, and people wouldn't be able to see it when it's covered by your clothes. You don't have to be in the hospital to get nutrition through either kind of feeding tube. Like any medical treatment, a feeding tube has benefits and risks. For people with swallowing difficulties, like those recovering from a surgery or people receiving a cancer treatment like radiation to their head and neck, a temporary feeding tube can sometimes help them feel better, gain weight, and become stronger until they can eat on their own again. Feeding tubes are not recommended for people that have stopped eating because they're in the dying process. In the very last stages of illness and at the end of life, our bodies stop processing food and water normally. Refusing water and food is a natural and non-painful part of the dying process. A feeding tube would not help someone feel better or live longer during this time, and it could make them feel worse. Feeding tubes have some risks. Some people find the tube uncomfortable. In some cases, feeding tubes cause bleeding, infection, skin irritation, leaking around the tube, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea. Sometimes the tube can get blocked or fall out and need to be replaced in the hospital. Some people with feeding tubes can inhale fluid into their lungs, which could cause pneumonia. Sometimes when people are really sick, they get confused and pull on the tube. To prevent this, medication may be given to make the person sleepy, a cloth may be wrapped around their midsection to keep the tube in place, or the person's hands may be covered or restrained. Some people decide not to have a feeding tube. They can sometimes still get nutrition by having someone help them eat. With this help, they can continue to take in their favorite food and drink for as long as they want to. Every person is different, and the best plan for one person might not be the best plan for someone else. Whether a feeding tube is the right choice for you will depend on your goals, your health condition, and your preferences. Talk to your healthcare team. They can make a recommendation about feeding tubes and other treatments based on your health condition and what matters most to you.